Hello, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Wendy.
Welcome
Welcome
to
to
Brown
Brown Space.
Space. This is a safe space where we talk about the hard topic of racism.
And build empathy through the healing power of conversation.
Thank you for joining us.
You know, I watched a Netflix movie called Loving just a couple nights ago. Did you see it?
I did not watch it because it's been a week and a weekend, but I saw the movie, I'd say years ago, a couple years ago at least.
Okay. I
I
can't
just,
remember when it came out, but it just hit Netflix. So, um,
yeah, I remember the couple, and I could see why. I mean, it was a twist on their name was Loving,
yeah.
but they were also so loving, so
Oh,
such a loving couple. I remember that much about the movie and all that they went through in order to overturn the case, or
my goodness.
overturn that whole era of blacks and whites not being able to marry. I mean, all they had to do to journey from one place to the next without getting, you know,
Or
yeah,
yeah, exactly. Worse.
yeah.
Yeah. So just to recount, Richard Loving married this beautiful African American woman that he was utterly in love with, and he was a white man. And it was 1958 in Virginia,
Hmm.
and it was illegal for them to be married. And they got thrown in jail because somebody tattletaled to the police in their county. And the judge said, I will give you a choice. You can either be thrown in jail or you can leave the state of Virginia for 25 years. And so they left and they went to live in Washington D.C. where they had gotten married. They drove up there for the ceremony. And at some point, it might have been 5 or 6 years later, they had three little children and one of them got hit by a car because there was really nowhere for them to play. And now why can I not remember her name? Belinda or Melinda? All of a sudden I can't remember her name, and that's embarrassing. Because they he kept calling her by a nickname, and so I didn't get her full name for a while. But long story short, it's the most beautiful story telling, in my opinion. Instead of making it all about litigation and the Supreme Court, it was about them, and it was about how an unjust law affects individuals and families and communities and ripples out into the larger community.
Hmm.
But you could see from beginning to end the way that the story was portrayed. You could see how individually this injustice affected them, and it just broke your heart. And I mean, how many
Others.
thousands, you
Hmm.
know, how many thousands of people have struggled similarly, just in interracial marriage, issues, let alone all of the
All the
others.
other
Now we're
issues.
talking about millions.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. So, and it took over a decade and the ACLU's intervention. Um, but I really encourage people to watch that. It really is another beautiful way that art shows us someone else's life,
Hmm.
helps you walk in someone else's shoes and to really have empathy. There was one scene. So this man, Richard, he really didn't actually seem to think of himself as a white man. surrounded by Black people. And I mean, he lived in the house with her family. They all lived in the same home. He was
They were just
best
people.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was best friends with her brothers. Um, you know, they were just equals. And if anything, they were much more educated and fluent than he was by far. He was just a very simple, quiet man. And he wanted to love his wife and raise a family and live simply and happily and with love. And instead, he became a national icon and he was very uncomfortable in the spotlight. He couldn't even look. I mean, just the way this actor portrayed him was very beautiful, I thought. Um, but there's a scene where he and three of his African American buddies are in a bar and they're all sitting around a table drinking together and laughing and making jokes. And one of them says, you know, you had it made. You had the girl you love, but you also had the white man's privilege and you threw it away by getting
Wow.
married. So now you know what it feels like to be Black.
Wow.
And it's like, whoa. Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm giving spoilers to anybody who's watching,
I
but
know, because I want to watch it again, but I think this is great. It's great conversation. Now I'm totally inspired and I have to watch it all over again. It will talk about
beautiful.
empathy
Yeah.
and as you said, and just living that life, putting yourself in that other person's shoe is not just a statement that sounds good and I can relate and I can empathize and but he lived the life. He chose to live the life. And it was only because of his love for another human being.
Yes.
Period.
Yes,
Did not
exactly.
see, okay, I'm gonna, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
He loved a woman and she
Yeah.
loved a man. Oh, and I should have, before I reference things, I should look them up. But the actress who played Mrs. Loving, the her facial expressions said more than any script. It's just,
Mm.
you fall in love with her portrayal. She's just, it was beautiful.
What else did
Yeah.
we want to talk about? We
I
talked
remember
about
one thing.
what was it?
Well, and you brought it up and then we didn't circle back to it. So I don't want to forget. But when we were talking about February being Black History Month, and I
Mhm.
said to you, do you want to do something for Black History Month? And you went like this. And I suddenly got it. Black History Month is a white thing.
We live our history, our story every day, all day, not just in a month.
Yeah.
And as as I referenced before and said before, yes, we have to remind our children and remind ourselves of our story and our history, and be proud to do that, and pinpoint those things. But I feel like sometimes it's more of an obligatory kind of a thing because we have these 28 days, only 28 days in order to do that. And we have an entire lifetime. We have our lives, our daily lives every day that we can live that. And that's from my point of view as someone, of color, a woman of color, a Black woman, a woman of African descent, that that's how I raised my children. That's how I was raised. You're proud of who you are all the time. And that pride, I know it's been a thing, especially where I live, because did a lot to express that. And so I'm somewhat known for that. After a while, it gets tiring. Hey, you want to come do a dance? You want to do a thing? You want to do. And as I said before, we're not to negate those celebrations. because they mean a lot, and they remind us. But, we're here all year long.
Yeah.
Is it an unusual thing for me to wear my full African regalia in the month of May if I feel like it? It shouldn't be
Yeah.
oh, but in Black History Month, it's, oh yeah, it's Black History Month. No,
Mhm.
no. So that's where my came from. And I know that you saw from your perspective that, oh, yes, this is something we do because it makes us feel better that we did something.
Right. But like you say, you know, there have been these decades where Black History Month has existed because it was the time to go, hey, wait, there is actually Black history that's beyond, oh, we were enslaved in this
Mhm.
country. Like there's a heck of a lot more. Um, so now I think we've gotten to a place where we can say if we continue with Black History Month, then it's an utterly white thing
Yeah.
because we're like, I'm looking at it as the white culture being too afraid to open the box and just let all the colors mix up, like get the crayon box with all the colors and dump them out and use them all, enjoy each one.
Mhm.
Like, why do you just, I'm going to only use these colors and this month and these colors on all the other months? It's like, no, sorry, I'm on a soapbox.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Will I not go to a celebration or do something? Yeah, I will. Of course, I'm proud of my heritage. But my focus is living the the life that God has gifted me to live, which is to love everybody, right? So what does that look like? Is my focus one month of the year, or my focus is every month of the year?
Right.
For whoever it is that we are celebrating, how do we, like you say, throw it all there in the box and
Mhm.
just make one big, wonderful, beautiful collage?
Yeah. And it's important, as you said, it's important for African Americans to understand their history. But why is it just focused in that one time? Like, why don't we all understand this history and how it's actually not only tied into the enslavement of 400 years?
Yeah.
And by the way, a lot went on during those 400 years that was independent of that enslavement. For instance, and this is something that has come out of my American musical theater class again, is this realization that all of the music that we call American, all of the music
I
that we
want you to
call,
say it. You say it.
I'm going
You
to
say
say it, it's a
it.
combination of European white classical music and African dance rhythms. You do not have American music without Africa. You just do not. I don't care what genre you're talking about. Oh, that's just jazz. No, it's rock and roll. It's rap. It's everything. Everything. In fact, you can't even write a modern American opera without that influence.
There you go. Well, again, well said.
But it just blew my mind. I was like, girl, where have I been? Yeah. It's like I knew it, but I didn't know it. It didn't like really
No.
sink in until I was teaching this class. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's really in my face now. And that is thanks to our conversations, lady.
it is.
It
Yeah,
really is.
it is. I remember when you first start, you were like, okay, I don't just want to schmooze over, an African American spirituals,
Yeah.
or just do spirituals, because there's so much more to it. And, I encourage you in that. supported you in that look, go deeper and then put it out there, give it to your
Yeah.
students and to your audience. And that's really exciting.
It is. I feel much better. I mean, I have so much more I can do and want to do, just over time. But I have to educate myself little by little. And I have a stack of books in the other room that I've just been waiting to get to one by one.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me
little by little. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
This has been an amazing conversation.
It really is. I think we're all caught up. We
I
can never
think
be
we
caught
are.
up in this topic, but we covered a lot.
The
And
immediacy of it.
yes, yes.
This
And
is
I'm
great.
inspired to go back and dig out some books and even some documentaries and movies that I've seen or wanted to see, but not necessarily taken the time and made the space to do it, because I'm inspired by this conversation.
Well, we all need more brown space so that we have time to do it.
Yes. Absolutely.
Thanks, Sharon. I love you.
And I love you, Wendy.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. You've been watching Brown Space with Sharon and Wendy.
It's been so great talking and sharing here today. We look forward to your comments below, or you can email us at brownspace2020@gmail.com.
Remember, you are the light that gives light to the world.